Welcome to the Sports Lounge, the 86th edition, the shitty hat edition of the Sports Lounge. I'm Travis Kriens. We got David Shattenkirk. We got Nathan Stack, and we have Mr. Royal, Mr. Lord himself, Marcus Traxler.
Pumping out them hits.
Very good. Charlie Hildebrand in the on-deck circle, 5 to 10 minutes away. And Drew Amon claims he'll be here for the final 10 to 15 minutes. So we will see about that to close the show strong. On any normal week, college football would get the top billing, a tremendous weekend of games, tons of upsets all around, shaking up the top 10 standings. But there was a baseball game on Tuesday night, one of the great baseball games of the last 10 years, a Kansas City-Oakland one-game playoff for all of the marbles, and Kansas City won the marbles 9, 8, and 12 innings. They were down 7-3 with 5 outs to go, and somehow they came back and won after terrible decisions by taking out James Shields. He only threw 5 innings, under 90 pitches. Tons of bunts. If you liked bunts, this was your favorite game of all time. Mr. Kansas City, how exciting was this game? And this is the best game I've seen since the Twins-Tigers one-game playoff in, 2010, and you put that Game 6 of the 2011 World Series in there as well. As good of a baseball game as anybody's seen in recent time.
Yeah, I would agree, and I thought that there were a lot of similarities between this game, which I would consider to be a tiebreaker, a playoff, just like the Twins-Tigers was. A lot of back and forth, a lot of mood swings, a lot of points where it looked like either team was sort of dead to rights, and just great drama. And Kansas City, I would listen to a lot of the game, and then when I got home, I caught a lot of the extra innings, but it seemed like the game really did change when they took out Shields in the 6th inning, and I feel like if the Royals would have lost, we'd probably still be talking about that, because it just didn't seem like the right decision. And there's been lots of, I think, conservative pitching moves in these playoffs that I'm sure we'll talk about in general. But when they needed the big hit, they got it at the end. And for a team that spent 3 decades on the outside looking in the playoffs, for them to take advantage of that opportunity with home field was quite impressive. And the other thing that I think stood out to me, only because I read a Sports on Earth article about it, is how many times the A's have come up short in the playoffs since 2000 or 2001. They've had plenty of failures, I guess, in the playoffs. We think about the Twins and all the times that they've struggled, but the A's have almost twice as many postseason failures, if you will.
I believe that win against the Twins in 06 is their only playoff win. Their only series win. In the last 20 years.
Because they beat the Twins and they played the Tigers in the ALCS, right?
It was 2006, and that's been I believe their only series win since the early 90s. But I don't think that gets talked about nearly enough. David, we had the pitching change. Ned Yost got off easy because his team won. But would this have been a fireable offense if his team does not somehow come back down 4 runs in the 8th? Because people were calling for
that might be pushing it. Yeah, no, that might be pushing it. If they would have lost that game, I could have, in the immediate aftermath, there would have been people saying, hey, yeah, that was so egregious that maybe we should look elsewhere. And I've never been a big Ned Yost fan to begin with, and that just proves everything I've ever thought about him. That situation like that, he goes to Ventura. It just blew me away. It blew a lot of people away, and it looked like it was going to be, catastrophic for the Royals there. But like we talked about, that game turned out being very, very good and exciting. One of the best games we've seen in a while. But I don't think he would have been, but it definitely would have been a lot more of a hot button talking point, like Trax alluded to earlier.
Mr. Stacken, does the incompetency of Ned Yost make this game? Because if he does not make this move to Ventura on 1 day's rest after throwing 80 pitches, 2 days ago, 1 day ago, this game does not become the classic, you would assume.
It might, but it could have. It's not guaranteed that Shields wouldn't have given up a hit and the A's wouldn't have tied or broken free or broken loose a little bit more in the 6th inning. It was certainly a puzzling decision. and one that fortunately worked out for the Royals in the end. But the A's looked like they were getting the Shields a little bit there in that inning, so who's to say that they wouldn't have been able to get a base knock or two and score a couple of runs.
And you had John Lester there dealing for Oakland in the 8th inning, and you thought, he's probably going to go maybe the distance here, if not 8 full innings. And Kansas City's not going to be able to muster anything offensively. By God, Drew Ahman early. A photograph from 2003. Very good. But you had Brandon Moss. He had the back-to-back home runs there. Postseason record for Oakland, only 6 RBIs. That kind of stunned me a little bit. That was that few of RBIs. But Mr. Ahman, we're talking Royals athletics. The difference between a regular season game and a postseason baseball game, there seems to be more difference, I feel, in a baseball playoff game than any other sport. The way it's managed, the way every out, every pitch is of the utmost importance, how teams use their bullpen, the decisions they make, the decision to bunt, the decision to steal, the decision to play for 1 run, when it's a close game. Size up for me the difference here in these playoff games thus far versus a regular season game. Drew Ahman.
I think.
Okay.
I just think, in a general sense, I just think everything is a little bit better. I think defensively these games are better than what you see in the regular season. In terms of how they're managed, I think you see Ned Yost and the Royals being actually more aggressive in terms of doing what they do, which is bunting, stealing some bases, and it's paid off for them. It's paid off for them big time. I have to give them some credit. I think some teams get themselves into trouble by somehow pulling back kind of what they have done during the regular season and making odd bullpen choices, things like that. I don't know. For the most part, I think I think the quality of play is just that much higher, generally speaking, than a regular season game.
With that Kansas City game, was the 8th inning that key inning there? You could look to the 6th when they made the pitch and change to take Shields out. But was the 8th inning there when they made that rally? Was that the key inning in this game where it turned and you said, okay, this one's going to be better than normal?
Bringing in Ventura for Shields was a real head scratcher. I think that's been well covered if you have a Twitter account. And it was the wrong thing to do. It didn't really end up mattering. It actually made things more interesting for Traxler's Royals. So
that's the type of call where good.
Hi, Marcus.
How you doing?
I feel like that's the type of call. It's not so much a head scratcher.
Fine, thank you.
Great. It takes a while to get over the mountains, apparently. So. The move, the Ventura for Shields move, or to take Ventura in for Shields, was not so much a head scratcher as I thought it was an ass scratcher, because you're like, that makes zero goddamn sense to use. You got a guy that can throw 100 miles per hour. You're hoping probably to get 2/3 of an inning or an inning out of him. But when your bullpen is this good, this Kansas City bullpen has been unbelievable ever since that inning where Herrera gave up a couple runs, Ventura gave up a couple runs. Ever since that inning, the last few innings.
In Game 2, I think Yost took out Wade Davis after Davis had only thrown like 12 pitches.
You like to see him throw 2 innings here with that type of pitch count. And with the day off the next day, there's no there's no rest involved there. But let's see, they've had 14 innings after that shit inning in the middle of that Oakland game. Mr. Hildebrand, welcome.
Yep, sorry I'm late. I had a pair of AA Fear Amir batteries, and they just kind of ran out of juice this weekend.
Yes.
Well done. 14 innings, last 14 innings for the Royals bullpen. They've given up 4 hits. 4 hits in 14 innings, no runs. They've struck out 13, 1 per inning. I don't know how the hell Anaheim's going to win this series. or get it back to Anaheim with the bullpen like that, because if you can get 6 innings from your starter, tremendous outing here for Kansas City. Anybody here think the Angels can push this to 5? Any bold man out there, because their hitting is atrocious right now.
I'll take it one step further. I think they win the series.
Whoa!
What?
If they win tonight, they win all 3. If the Royals are going to win it, they do it tonight. Otherwise, it's going back to LA, and LA's going to win it.
Alrighty. Mike Trout 0 for 8.
I was going before you get to Trout.
Yeah.
What the hell are they doing, even considering playing Josh Hamilton right now?
Josh Hamilton
looks terrible.
Yeah,
he looks terrible. And Trout, I mean, you can sort of see that the pressure's getting to Trout a little bit. He's always calling for time. He's taking 3-4 swings before each pitch. He's not swinging at pretty good strikes. He's not making great. He's popping stuff up. He has not played well, and it's sort of representative of the Angels as a team.
He's had better power numbers this year, but he's also had a ton of strikeouts. Way too many strikeouts. Yes. Hello. Drew Amon?
Houston, hello.
Drew Amon. Denver. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We'll get him back.
Okay.
Hey, anybody else here?
Everybody's here.
We're all here. Hi.
Hi. There are 29 people in this chat. Yes. Mike Trout, 184 strikeouts, 50 more than he had the year before. He has more power numbers, so you would assume a little bit more strikeouts there. He had 36 home runs, only 9 more than the year before. He had 111 RBIs, only 14 more than the year before. So is that production, a few home runs, a few RBIs, is that worth it here? His on base fell 50 points. His average fell 30 points. Is this a trend that's going to continue?
I kind of like the.
Drew Amon.
I thought I remember reading during the offseason that he wanted to be more of a power hitter. I like the 2012-2013 kind of Mike Trout the best, who could hit for average and draw a ton of walks. He also doesn't steal as many bases as he used to. But he's still the best player in the American League, so, I mean, we're picking nits here.
Is this the guy that's going to peak early, where he's going to get 28, 29 years old and he won't be as good as he was when he was 23? Or is this going to be a prolonged stretch, a pool holes-like stretch where we're going to have to wait until he gets into his early 30s for a drop? David Schottenkirk.
There's going to be ups and downs. So I don't think this year the strikeout number does bother me quite a bit, even though his power numbers went up. I prefer to kind of have the perfect middle of the two. A little bit better average, fewer strikeouts, maybe even a few less homers. And like Drew said, he hasn't steal anywhere near as many bases this year as he had in years previous. But he's still, 22, just turned 23. I don't think he's going to be pool type numbers, because that's what Albert did, was just out of this world. But I would be fairly surprised if his average didn't go back up next year. Power numbers stay pretty similar, and I would be very, very surprised if the strikeout number didn't come way down. I think part of that was being just over-aggressive in some certain at-bats, wanting to, quote-unquote, swing for the fences. He lost, I don't want to say a step, but he lost a half step. He put on 15 or 20 pounds, and nobody really talked about in the offseason. That's where the fewer steals comes into play, but I think he's, long haul, he's just fine and definitely the best player in the American League.
The power numbers were slightly up, but his slugging percentage was pretty much the same. It went up 4 points. So that's interesting. The other series, first to finish off this Angels series here, they got C.J. Wilson going tonight against James Shields.
Talk about Nelson Cruz.
Nelson Cruz is the big son of a bitch that hits a lot of home runs in the postseason.
Mr. October, according to the TBS crew tonight.
He's
they can go to hell.
Wow. He's a free agent at the end of this year, that 1-year deal coming off the roids. So he will get paid substantial monies, and I expect his production to go down quite a bit. He's never been this good. This is by far his best season ever. So,
that's me sticking a needle in my arm like Nelson Cruz.
There you go. Many times. I don't know if we want to do it that many times in a row like that. But
To be fair, is that for steroids, or are you getting inoculated for a disease?
Well, yeah, good point.
I don't think you take steroids in the arm, do you?
You can take them anywhere. Up the ass, in the ass, pill form. We found out there was a cream and a clear. I don't know if you heard about the cream and the clear.
Just the clear.
You just heard about the clear. You didn't hear about the cream.
No.
You heard about the gummy bears, the Alex Rodriguez branded gummy bears that you take in the 6th inning so you can go nuts in the 5th inning and they're out of your system by the 7th.
Those were cool.
Those were cool. So Nelson Cruz, he'll go to some team, be a DH next year, and hit about 260 and get hurt and play 29 games. So get your money while you can. Get in on that while you can. Uh-oh. Here they come. Here they come.
What the shit?
You got the other series, one hell of a game, too long for me to watch. I'm not watching 29 hours of baseball here, but you had the Giants and the Nationals, a 2-1 game that went 18 innings, a 6-hour game, a 6-hour baseball game, almost 6.5 hours. How much of this did you see? And another egregious call, or another manager disaster, Matt Williams taking Jordan Zimmerman out with 1 out to go in a 1-0 game. 1 week off a no-hitter. He'd given up 3 hits the entire game. He had not given up a base runner since the 3rd inning. He walks a man and he decides to give him the hook. This, as bad as Ned Yost managing skills were on Tuesday night, this was the worst managing decision I have seen in this playoffs through the first week. Mr. Traxler.
Let's get this out of the way though first. Drew, what's the deal with the Giants? You seem like you're just bashing on them. I don't get it.
I don't get the allusions to their meat and having big meat and stuff. I don't like that. It doesn't do anything for them. However, Schottenkirk, I was going to chime in with this stuff about the Nationals pitching change. I was going to give credit to the Giants for being completely dead for about 6-7 innings, single-double, tied game. Almost took the lead on that slide by Posey. You can't kill this team. They get it done. I'm not a very big Hunter Pence fan. Just gonna say it.
Really? I thought he'd be right up your alley, to be honest. That was a joke, but I get why people hate him.
The Home Alone movies, is he recovered from that?
He looks like Mar from Home Alone. I mentioned that on the chat.
I don't think I mentioned on the chat how much I love that comparison, by the way.
That was very underrated. That was underappreciated. Very underappreciated.
I took a screenshot of Pence during, Yeah,
there's a bit of a delay here. You can continue. Yes.
Yeah, the satellite thing. I feel like I'm on TV with that 5-second delay, and it's really awkward.
We're going to Drew. He's in Mississippi. Go.
We're doing it live.
Okay. The Jordan Zimmerman call out. Amon's going to reshuffle here. He's going to rejoin the chat here. Charlie Hildebrand, taking a pitcher who was as dominant as Zimmerman was, did not give up a base runner. 20 consecutive guys came up. 20 consecutive guys walked their asses to the dugout. He gives up a walk with 2 outs in a 1-0 game. Washington, playoff failures 2 years ago, disappointment last year. Why in the hell would you take this man out of the game?
To me, I wouldn't take him out, but managers do goofy things and they panic sometimes. I don't know how many pitches he'd thrown at that point. I know you don't care about the pitch count, and I don't care
100.
about it as much as other people do.
He threw an even 100 pitches.
And apparently they think that's the magic number for him, and that walk freaked him out. I wouldn't have taken him out. My guess is that you wouldn't have taken him out, but they took him out in the game, and obviously it didn't work out as well as they wanted it to.
Marcus, David.
I was going to say real quick, when they took him out, I stood up and started clapping because I figured at that point the Giants had a chance. So,
Marcus, these Washington Nationals, hyped to no end. Are they going to get anything done here?
I don't see it happening, especially now that it's 2-0 going to San Francisco, where they have a good amount of experience in the postseason. I just feel like it's all bark, no bite with these Nationals, especially considering that they've been at home in this series and in series past, and they just they've not gotten it done. And I guess I was a little discouraged by the fact that a majority of their fans left as that game got late on a Saturday. I'm not real crazy about that. And just, I mean, when you talk about the team, I thought I'm okay with teams yelling at the ump, to be honest, but I thought that their arguing balls and strikes in Game 2 was just kind of petty.
Yeah.
Mr. Amon, are you with us? Probably not. Those fans left early for the Nationals game, but they had Navy season tickets, so where do you go?
That's true. I mean, the midshipmen having a good season.
The midshipmen shitting their pants. Worst. All right, Mr. Amon, he's up, but his picture will somehow stay on the screen, or now it's gone. He says he only had 20 minutes, only though he was here for about 10. He says the Giants suck, college football is crazy, Adrian Peterson is a dick face, and he hates the NFL. So that's Drew Amon's next hour and a half there in about 5 seconds. So there you go. There you go. Dodgers, Cardinals, things got a little bit heated there. They're throwing punches in Game 1. A good pitcher's duel in Game 2 there. Does this one seem destined for 5? Because this is probably the best series going here, because it's the only one not in danger of ending 3-0.
Yeah, it seems like this series is going to go back to St. Louis, and we'll at least get to the 4th game, if not the 5th.
Well, the 4th's guaranteed, but...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1-1. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I think that I guess I've been impressed with the Dodgers. They've been able to. I mean, they were in Game 1 and then they win a close Game 2. It seems like it's. I mean, you know that with Kershaw, you know that. I mean, he's going to be pretty consistent for you on a game-by-game basis, even though they didn't win Game 1. And I was pretty impressed with Zach Greinke, who I mean, has he always been a good hitter in the National League? I guess I don't pay enough attention. But that was a very good at bat that he took in the middle innings, where he had the RBI base hit, or maybe it wasn't an RBI, but he at least got the guy to third. And I mean, the Dodgers, they seem to be much more versatile as far as offense goes than they have been in the past. Maybe that's just a hunch for me.
You had the Braves kind of play, and Brian McCann kind of play the MLB baseball policeman last year, which is they're a bunch of dipshits. I have the Cardinals taking over this role here. They kind of did some stuff last year where they didn't like certain teams cocking off and being excited. They didn't like Puig trying hard and hustling like you should. Does this make? I think people should hate the Cardinals as much as the Yankees. Why do they not? Because the Yankees, they haven't been good for a while here, for about 4 or 5 years.
Because the Cardinals are in the center of the country and the Yankees are not. The Yankees are in the biggest media market in the country, and I don't know. I mean, I really am as disgusted by their best fans in baseball persona as everybody else. Even though I've been to St. Louis and they are good fans, they seem to take it to an I don't know what the word is, a sort of unbearable degree, especially via social media. And I mean, the Cardinals of the teams in these playoffs that I'd like to see win are probably in the middle of the pack. I would be okay with the Dodgers winning. That's who I'm honestly pulling for in this series.
Well, I do hate them close to the Yankees, but not quite. And one of the best Twitter handles to follow is Baseball's Best Fans. They retweet all these terrible things that supposedly the Cardinals, the best fans, quote unquote, in the game of baseball say, and it is just atrocious, and they all deserve to be run out of town or shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bold.
So.
You and Schottenkirk pulling out the big guns as penalties.
So
Eternal damnation is shot.
Yeah, they're not the best fans. Otherwise, the best fans wouldn't be saying this shit that these guys do. So follow Baseball's Best Fans on Twitter, and it'll never cease to amaze you just how pathetic these Cardinals fans are.
The account Best Fans St. Louis is the account.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
Breaking news on the lounge, Nathan Stack in the
Baltimore has just won against the Detroit Tigers 2-1, capping off one of the worst days for Detroit sports in the last, year or so, with the Lions somehow losing to the Buffalo Bills thanks to Alex Henry missing 3 field goals, and now the Tigers being swept by the Baltimore Orioles. Detroit, bankrupt city, bankrupt in sports team talent, except for maybe the Detroit Red Wings. I'm going to throw Michigan into this too, because Ann Arbor is very short distance away, so they suck. Everything sucks in Detroit except for GM and Ford and everything. Keep making those cars. Hopefully you don't get any recalls, but I'm pulling for you, Detroit, as a city, but right now you're not very good. No, I'm pulling for Detroit as a I am pulling for Detroit as a city. Out of their bankrupt. I am pulling that they get their cars and everything good, the manufacturing and everything. But in terms of sports teams, right now, you're garbage.
I'm pulling that they get their cars good.
Yeah.
Stacking. Real quick. I can understand why you're down on Detroit or whatever, but I'm just forewarning you that there's a massive boom going right on right now, if I could speak, in Detroit with the cars and the technology industry. It's coming back around, so don't get your facts straight for you. Bash in the city.
I said they're bankrupt, and I said I hope that they continue to make their cars and everything. I'm talking about their sports teams. Their sports teams right now not very good. They're still a bankrupt city, from what I know, and yeah.
Did you watch Lions?
Okay, all right. Never mind. I was going to say something about the city's socioeconomic status, but we'll just take that for a different. For a different lounge.
That's program. On the Politics Lounge.
That's on the Politics Lounge. Yes, I won't bring that up here.
Top of the hill, we call it. Top of the hill.
We do call that top of the hill. That's
right after what's your cooking show?
Flipping and flopping at 5 a.m.
That's right. To counteract,
I don't know how we haven't gotten a better time slot after all these years.
People wake up. They want to see something good on the TV when they wake up.
And that's why they have to turn on their computers to watch the show.
Yeah, they got cords.
It's a web show. Cords. Yeah.
Detroit, to counteract Mr. Stacken's point, Detroit is so bad that the Tigers won the division and the Lions are in first place. So I wish my teams were that bad.
The Twins and the Vikings are bad, though.
Yeah. How fun is it going to be? A Kansas City-Baltimore LCS here. Kansas City and Baltimore. Nobody's ever seen those teams in the World Series that's on this chat. Something different, something new. Baltimore or Kansas City in the goddamn World Series. How about that? Very excited.
Every minute of it if Kansas City's in there.
Good. We want that. The college football weekend was tremendous. It had a lot of hype going into it. A lot of ranked teams and lots of upsets. Lots of teams that were lower ranked beating the higher ranked teams. You had the big one, Ole Miss. I said, show me something. They won. They showed me something. It started off on Thursday, Arizona beating Oregon somehow for a second year in a row by 7. You had Taysom Hill break his leg. Rest in peace there. You had TCU over Oklahoma. Mr. Hildebrand, kudos to you. It happened. So there you go. You also had Mississippi State over A&M, 48-31. It's not surprising that they won, but it's surprising that they beat the shit out of them the entire game. You had Utah beat UCLA about 4 hours ago. That's when that game got done with. You had Arizona State beat USC. I don't know how that happened. Which team ended up the best? Which team ended up all of this fucking mess happened? Mr. Schottenkirk, what team at the end of the day is at the top of the hill and saying this was a good week for us?
Well, I'm going to go off the radar here a little bit and go Notre Dame, believe it or not. Schedule-wise, it's setting up for them. If they were to win out, stay close to Florida State, and everybody else has one loss or two losses, they could find themselves in the playoff with one loss if they keep it close at Florida State. They really could. And I hate myself to say that, but that win over Stanford was pretty big. They've got a couple of games down the stretch where they still could find a way to lose one. Arizona State, USC, Florida State. There's a game in there that they're probably going to lose. If they go to Tallahassee, stick with Florida State, play pretty well, assuming Winston and everybody else is healthy, so it's straight up for straight up. I think Notre Dame in this weekend, that's obviously subject to change, but I think they're the ones that are the big winners. Them finding that touchdown with a minute left from Golson to the guy walking in the corner end zone. I called David Shaw this morning, no answer because I wanted to bitch him out for that, but that's a whole different story.
I just want to say that David took what would be my answer, Notre Dame. David and I have talked about Notre Dame and their schedule, and I mean it is tough. I don't think they have 3 games on there that are Florida State's probably going to be a loss because they have to play at Florida State. And I thought USC at the beginning of the year would beat Notre Dame, and I still think that's true. Arizona State obviously is not an easy win. So, but I do think, I mean, Notre Dame's in a scenario. I like Everett Golson. I like the way he plays. And they showed yesterday they can win a tough, close game against a Stanford team that's got a great defense, but their offense was terrible yesterday. And Notre Dame probably, if they had a holder who could handle the damn snap, would have won that game by at least 2 scores. So it was one of those days for Notre Dame where they're fortunate that they did hang on and win that game. But I would also say that Auburn came out pretty well, considering that they blew away LSU. That was a game that I wasn't real confident would be a blowout like that. I thought that there may be an outside chance that LSU flips the switch and gets in there and gets a win. And while they're not getting any respect, TCU got a very valuable win yesterday at home against Oklahoma.
That'll be awesome. They'll beat some about 3 touchdowns this week.
Yeah.
I would say that, and they've been mentioned already, I'd say Auburn, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State are all the 3 big winners, and they're also the 3 big losers because they all have to play each other still, and they could all go 5-3 despite being truly fantastic.
Mr. Hildebrand, are you ready to live in a world in which Mississippi State and Ole Miss are 2 of the top 5 teams?
Throw in Baylor at 6, and 5 years ago, nobody in the country would have guessed that ever happened. I mean, we'll see what happens. I know Auburn and Mississippi State play on Saturday, so obviously one of those 2 will have to lose, and I don't have a clue who I'd pick. I probably won't figure that out till Friday. But, yeah, to me, this is certainly the weirdest season up to now since 2007 when a 2-loss LSU team beat Ohio State in the national title game. And each passing week, I'm kind of getting the sense that it's going to be kind of like that year again, where all these top-ranked teams keep losing each week. And it could be that we're looking at 3 2-loss teams and 1 1-loss team in the playoff at the end of the year.
Nathan. Marcus.
I think Travis made the point earlier today, maybe yesterday, that we're going to get to the point where nobody's out. I mean, all those teams lost yesterday, and I don't think any of them are out. I mean, you can't of the playoff hunt. Oregon, I can't even count them out at this point, considering that Pac-12 is going to be pretty upside down the whole rest of the way. So it will be very interesting. But the fact that we're already to the point where you've got to have 3 losses, I think, this year to really be out of contention, and 2 losses will at least give you a shouting chance, especially in the SEC.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier in the year, I think before the season started, if you're a 1-loss team from a Power 5 conference, you legitimately have a chance to be in at the end of the year, depending on how things play out. And since I think we can all agree that it's going to be unlikely Florida State does not win the ACC, since Notre Dame and Florida State play, that ends up being like the de facto ACC champ that could get into the playoff then.
Yeah, Notre Dame, you're kind of in the ACC. Now you're playing for the ACC championship, when you go to Florida State here in, I don't know, is it a month, a couple weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. That should be a dandy of a football game. Can FSU get past Syracuse first? Can they win in the Dome?
Huge game. Huge.
Well,
Huge.
They struggled against Wake in the first half.
I say that half serious because, as you said, it was 13-3. Hosting Wake Forest. Hosting Wake Forest at home. You're up by 10 points at the half. So Florida State all year, very, very unimpressive. They do not have an impressive showing whatsoever this year. You have Ole Miss here. They have 7 games left. I'll pose this question to the group, and I'll have Schottenkirk jump on my ass after I say this here. Will they finish that 7-game stretch to end the season over or under 500 in those 7 games?
I'm going to say over. I say they go 9-3, and that's not an indictment on Ole Miss. That's more saying how ridiculously tough their schedule is the rest of the year.
So they go 5-2 in those final 7. Would be the deal.
I'm saying Ole Miss is undefeated right now, so I'd say they go 4-3.
They go 4-3. Okay, they go 4-3. Okay. They have. They're at Texas A&M next week. I think they lose that one. Night game at Texas A&M. They're at LSU. I think that's your game. That's the game that decides this at LSU because their defense has given up a bunch of points and they still don't have a quarterback. They're looking for a quarterback. They host Auburn. I would hope Auburn could beat Ole Miss in that game at the end of the year. They host Mississippi State. So those are the 4 games where I'm looking at where you probably lose at least 2 of them, maybe 3, and if you're really bad, you lose all 4 of those. That Ole Miss Alabama game, how did they win that game? Was it their defense? They only had 10 points there through 3.5 quarters. You had some big turnovers. You had the fumble where Alabama scored there at the end of the half. You kind of thought that would maybe be the deciding factor, but then Ole Miss gets the fumble there near the end of the game to set up their game-winning score. How did Ole Miss beat Alabama?
Like you said, I'd certainly go with the defense. Alabama only scored 17, and one was off that face mask fumble return that shouldn't have counted in the first place. And even if they did, that's not a defensive score. Their defense only gave up 10 points to an Alabama team, and I'm throwing myself in this category that we all thought that they were like one of the 5 best offensive teams in college football and maybe couldn't be stopped with their running game and Amari Cooper. And maybe they still are, but Ole Miss's defense was really good and came to play and looked really, really fantastic.
I would just say, I think, it wasn't until Ole Miss had tied the game that I thought Ole Miss could win the game. Because even when it was, 17-10, I still felt like it was Alabama's game to lose. And I would have to say that you have to give Ole Miss the credit, even though, Alabama, their goddamn special teams leaves points on the field every big game. It comes back to haunt them for the last 2 or 3 years. I just can't understand that. You're the best football program in the country, and you can't recruit a goddamn kicker. And Ole Miss, when it came down to the end of the game, Ole Miss won it. But I just felt like they weren't in a position to win it because it felt like Alabama was going to just pull away or make the stops they had to make, and they didn't do that.
Alabama's inherited Boise State's problem of not being able to having their special teams cost them.
Somebody, I guess, a perennial power has to have that hex on them. I guess it has to be Alabama.
Good to see you, Mike Trout, go deep there. 1-0. 1-0 Angels. So there you go.
Fuck you, Traxler. They're coming for you. I'm telling you, they're coming for you.
Good for Trout.
They're coming.
He's a good guy.
I like Charlie. I like Charlie. Good for Trout. Good for him. That's good. Good guy.
The big game next week, Mr. Stacken, number 2, Auburn at number 3. Number 3, Mississippi State. Any reason that you could come up with whatsoever that the winner of this game should not be voted #1 in the country next Sunday morning?
No, because as mentioned earlier, Florida State plays a Syracuse team that hasn't really been good in quite some time since Donovan McNabb was there. I don't even know if they were that great even with him. So yeah, number 2, number 3 winner that I think it has to be ranked #1 by the pollers once it's done.
Mississippi State, I know I don't like Ole Miss. I don't think they're all that good. Mississippi State, I think they're pretty good.
Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott, your quarterback there. If they get past Auburn, they'll be 9-0 at Alabama in the middle of November. Mississippi State, do we gotta take them seriously, or do we gotta wait another week here?
Wait another week. Auburn beats them by 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
That game. Where is that game?
That is at Mississippi State.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be a 2-touchdown game. I think Auburn will win because I feel like that Auburn, gun to my head, is the strongest team in that division.
Let's put it this way. I know Nebraska made it close last night against Michigan State, but everything I said last week about Michigan State and Nebraska, I feel the same about Auburn going into Mississippi State. They're too big, too fast, more experienced. They're going to win that game pretty easily.
We kind of
I did have some reservations on Mississippi State, though, handling Kenny Hill in that A&M offense. I thought they did a very good job against them in that first half there. Of course, the score obviously scored a lot in the second half, but I think Mississippi State's sort of underrated here. Auburn did have some issues with Kansas State when they traveled up to Manhattan earlier this year, but didn't the Kansas State kicker miss 3 or 4 field goals? So I think Mississippi State can keep a little bit closer here. I mentioned Dak Prescott is a fine quarterback, and they have like a butterball of a running back who can run downhill, and he's pretty good. So I think Mississippi State's going to keep this one closer than the experts think.
Here we are with the uphill, downhill field thing again. Isn't the field flat?
It should be. Maybe it's like it's a Houston Astros center field situation.
Well, somebody needs to look into that.
You got the crown. You got the crown on the top of the field is what you got.
I don't know who's going to win between Mississippi State and Auburn. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I'm going to take Mississippi State because I feel like Auburn's going to lose at some point this year. They're both going to lose multiple games, so I'm basically flipping a coin in my head. I think it should be entertaining, though.
Do you feel like this is another SEC defensive battle, 45-41?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be low scoring like the Alabama-Ole Miss game was. I think it'll be fun and entertaining to watch.
Sure,
maybe
SEC,
not like Cal and Washington State, but
that gets a bit ridiculous. You had the Baylor-Washington Alamo Bowl there 3 years ago. That was a bit ridiculous. We like our points. We like to, at least, take more than 4 plays to score. Take more than 60 seconds to put a goddamn touchdown on the board. Make it somewhat difficult.
Once they start getting into the 40s and 50s, it's kind of like having cake for dinner. That it tastes good at first, but it gets old after a while.
We like cake. We don't like it every day. Too much cake, not a good thing here. Any chance that the SEC can put in the copyright and rename their conference the Big 12? Is this possible?
I suppose it's possible. I think it'll be a long and lengthy court battle. I do know that I want to see Nick Saban yelling about it, though. And I want to see Steve Spurrier's thoughts.
Good. TCU.
No. Since Spurrier came up, you're going to have to address South Carolina. What do you have to say for yourself after the loss against Kentucky?
Come on.
I gotta look it up here. I don't even know what they did. They lost to somebody by
Kentucky. Yeah.
They lost to
They weren't playing basketball either.
I know, just for fun, among all of us, some of the preseason 14 playoff teams picked so far, like LSU, South Carolina, and Wisconsin, I think we can say that all 3 of those teams are probably out of the playoffs now.
That's true. But I just have to say that the
South Carolina was me. I had them in.
That was a team. That was a team that Travis said that's the Sports Lounge's team.
Yep.
And I was pretty wary of that. I say let's stay with Clemson. There's no reason to get off Clemson.
We're not off of Clemson. We've done this fucking thing 10,000 times. We're never off Clemson. Got to find a new fucking team because Clemson's gone from an 8-win team to an 11-win team and a BCS bowl contender, a New Year's Day bowl contender. We know they're good. They're going to be good for a long time. Mr. Watson's a fantastic quarterback. He'll be there for 3 years. Clemson is good. We always like Clemson. I'm going to put a fucking Clemson paw on my face. It's clear.
And
we're the corporations that donate to both campaigns in an election year.
Yes. Okay, all right. And in the interest of full disclosure, said Clemson team did destroy the shit out of North Carolina, the team that I said would win 10 games this year.
Yeah,
so
I mean, Jesus Christ.
It wasn't a great call. So
next two, they're going to freaking South Bend. Have fun with that.
Let's go.
South Carolina was one of those teams, borderline top 10 teams. A team that's been close to doing something here. North Carolina, for fuck's sakes. I know you got the Belk Bowl. I know you got the Music City Bowl. I know you got it. You got to keep them happy. But
Taylor went here 30 years ago.
There you go. You gotta each year want to pick a team kind of under the radar. Navy, fuck you, Navy, fuck you. You try to pick a team here that's a little under the radar. That they got they got a fairly easy schedule. You got a couple of deciding games. And the thing about it with South Carolina, they don't have anybody left. They got at Auburn. That's it. They're at Florida. Florida's god awful. You're at Clemson. Get your fucking doors blown off there. Clemson better step up and beat the shit out of them. But it came down to, can you beat Missouri? Can you beat Georgia? And A&M was better than people thought. So it was a 3-game season. They shit the bed there, and they barely beat Georgia. Should have beat Missouri, and you find yourself, you'll finish 8-4, 7-5, and go to a horseshit bowl.
This SEC East, for all the talk the West is getting, is just
sucks.
Just a terrible division. And I don't know why that is. You'd think the whole conference would be able to kind of ride this wave, but...
why? Because you have Missouri in the East. That is why.
Missouri shouldn't be in that conference.
Missouri is it not in the conference? In the division?
They should be in the Big 12, like they were.
No. Screw Texas. Texas did it. Nebraska left. Missouri left. Blame Texas.
It won't happen, but I wish we could make it so the two best teams in the SEC West could play again in the SEC title game.
Well, just move a team over here. I mean, Jesus Christ, what do we got here? Move a team in the East, from the West to the East. Move Missouri to the West. And who'd you move to the...
You would either move Alabama or Auburn.
Yeah, and then Alabama would be in there every year then. So have Auburn and Alabama play back-to-back weeks. Last game of the regular season and the SEC title game. Best 2 out of 3. I'd watch that every time. We have UCLA and Oregon this week. Is the loser of this game. They're done, right?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's a tiebreaker game right there. There's 10 undefeated teams left. 3 of them will lose in the next 2 weeks because 3 undefeated teams play each other here in the next 2 weeks. Marshall, undefeated. They're still outside the top 25. You have Tech. They're at the bottom of the top 25. Tech. You would look to them to lose. Where do we stand here, undefeated teams? Because I'll assume Marshall's your undefeated team. You're going with 3. I'm going to say there's only going to be 1. Marshall's going to be 1. You would assume there'd be at least 1 make the playoff. Mr. Schottenkirk, who are these undefeated teams?
I have 3 right now, and that's not including Marshall, so it could be technically 4, but Marshall doesn't have any chance to playoff. Florida State, they're not going to lose. The winner of the SEC West is going to be undefeated. Somebody's going to find a way to run that table. Auburn's right now. I picked Bama preseason. I like what I've seen out of Auburn. Right now, they're SEC West. I think they run the table. Baylor, if they get by TCU this week, look out. They have 1 game left against Oklahoma. Other than that, they'll be big favorites. There's the other one. Those 3. Auburn, Baylor, Florida State.
I say Florida State and Marshall, and that's it. No one's ran the SEC West since 2010, and it could happen this year again. I'm not saying it can't, but I don't think there's been a division as good this year in the SEC West in any sport in a long, long time. Where other than Arkansas, I think legitimately the other 6 teams are all top 15 teams in the country.
You know, God Tech.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. They have no chance, Marcus.
They should have lost to Georgia Southern. They should have lost to Georgia
They
Southern.
should have lost. But I got the schedule right here.
They have no chance.
They play Duke.
Nope.
And then they go to
That's
North
a loss.
Carolina. Duke's a loss?
Duke? Duke's pretty goddamn good.
Didn't Miami beat Duke?
Miami's all right. Miami's okay.
Then they go to North Carolina. I mean, I just want to put. They don't have Florida State on the schedule. That's all I have to say.
Honestly, Georgia Tech could win. They could win out, or they could lose out. I mean,
I would like to see Georgia Tech win out and then just get throttled in that championship game.
They're not beating Clemson. They're not beating Georgia.
No, they have. I mean, they have legitimately tough games at the end with Clemson and Georgia. I want to see Georgia go 8, 9, 10 or 10-0, and just see people lose their minds because I mean they're not a very good team. They're not a playoff quality team, but I just want to see people squeam a little bit.
Georgia, your other team of choice?
Georgia.
You have Missouri and Georgia next week. Can Missouri wrap it up? Can they wrap it up this early? With
Georgia's going to win that game.
Georgia takes it?
Georgia wins.
I agree.
It's tough for me to pick Missouri to win, even though they beat South Carolina. They looked bad, and they lost to Indiana at home.
Yeah, I can't do that. No.
I think Georgia's going to beat them. I think Georgia wins by 14.
Where is this game at? Oh, it's at Missouri. Okay.
We're going Missouri, boys. We're going Missouri.
Let's
We're
go.
Going Missouri.
That's where Sports Lounge pregame show is going to be. We can't call it game day, but
I went to one game at Missouri. They've got a really sweet campus, and as long as the weather's not really cold, it is shocking how many smoking hot girls are there.
Let's go.
Florida.
Not to discredit SDSU, but they do not hold a candle
I'll fit
to Missouri.
in with this hat. I don't even have to change my hat.
Yeah.
Florida, Tennessee. Kill me.
I watched a little bit of that game and thought, man, I remember when this used to be the game in the SEC, and it is not anymore. And Tennessee's not ever going to beat Florida ever again. This was their best. They haven't beat them since 2004. This was their best chance. If it's not happening this year, I don't think it's happening, period.
Instead of being the game, it is a game. So that has dropped considerably in the last decade. And look at these Kansas City Royals. By God, could we have a game that's under 4 hours? Could we have a game that finishes in less than 11 innings? That would be terrific. Although this game did start at 6, and this first inning has taken approximately a half hour already. TCU and Baylor. That's an interesting game. TCU, if they can win that, like a de facto Big 12 championship game early on. And Oklahoma, I don't trust Baylor to beat Oklahoma. If they can beat Oklahoma, you deserve to make the playoff. But Baylor, very unimpressive versus Texas there yesterday, and Texas isn't very good.
They happened to win by 21 points, though.
I mean, that was a 7-0 game, 14-0 game, yeah.
It was ugly.
Their defense greatly improved, though. Texas doesn't have much offensively, but if that Baylor defense can give them something, if they can hold teams to 30 points, I like Baylor's chances. You don't got to be that good. Hold them to 30. See what you can do down the stretch here. What I found interesting in the AP poll is Minnesota had 2 votes. Marcus, you voted them 24th, I take it?
MINNESOTA. That's right.
Sometimes you're better off not playing anybody.
It should also be noted North Dakota State received 3 votes. I think that's more than...
Yes. That was my next thing. Mr. Stacken has hacked my computer here. And
Which I don't know how. They barely beat Western Illinois on Saturday.
Western Illinois.
Nobody cares. Nobody's paid attention to North Dakota State outside of NVFC people ever since North Dakota State beat Iowa State.
Would you say Mr. Stacken, would you say that North Dakota State's one of the top 25 teams in college football, regardless of level?
No.
Huh?
I don't think so. I don't think I could quite go that far.
No, they're not. They're not even in the top fucking 50.
Okay,
No.
They're not.
I could talk with you. Last year's team, yes. This year's team, no. The fact that they received one more vote than Minnesota in the AP 25 is, I think, a complete joke.
No, it's not. It is because they shouldn't be receiving votes, but it's not because they are better than Minnesota.
To an extent, I sort of agree with Stacking on one thing. Not this year. I don't think last year's would be in the top 40. If you want to make the argument, I'll listen to it though, because I think, but not this year though.
No, not this year. And again, the fact that they barely beat Western Illinois, I don't know how anyone could think that they should receive votes in it.
Could they win the MAC?
Yeah, they could win the MAC.
Garbage.
But that doesn't mean they're a top 50 team.
I think they could. I don't know if they would or not. I think they. I mean, the tough thing is, even if they're playing in the MAC or the Sun Belt, it's that they're playing teams with more scholarships, and that I think at some point that would catch up with them and beat them. I think they'd have a winning record in the MAC. I think they'd go like 7-5 or 8-4.
Does that mean?
Go ahead.
Does that mean these teams with more scholarships are better scholar athletes? Is that why?
That's exactly it.
These are academic scholarships.
The MAC leads the world in the best student athletes, according to a statistic I just made up in my brain right now.
Good. Alex Gordon damn near hit a grand slam, a bases clearing triple, and it's very surprising. C.J. Wilson and his 5 ERA may not last the inning here. So Kansas City, Baltimore. Let's get that going. That should be fun. And I'm glad
only a dozen people will watch outside of the respective markets.
Would you rather watch Detroit Angels, for Christ's sake?
I will watch it, but
I think people will be interested in this.
Yeah,
I hope so too. But I made that argument. I made that argument with the Rays when they made it to the World Series some years back against Philadelphia, and the ratings weren't very good for that.
The ratings for that World Series were very bad.
Yeah, unfortunately, baseball needs bigger markets in there because it is sort of a dying sport amongst the young people such as us and even younger. It's just a fact that you need good teams that people really know about, like Mike Trout with the Angels. Yeah, he's a star. You need the Yankees in there, the hated empire, the Dodgers, the Cardinals, what have you. As much as we hate to say it, don't want these teams in there. For ratings purposes, I just don't think Kansas City, Baltimore is going to do it. Now, I want to see it. I hope it happens. But I think in terms of what it's going to do for baseball, I hope it proves me wrong, but I don't think it's going to generate very good ratings.
Hey, Stack, real quick, do you ever go against what the common sentiment is of the sporting public? You're always the one to point out the obvious, and it's not a bad thing, but it boggles my mind sometimes. Just the way I know what you're saying about the ratings or whatever, but the point is that we've heard it before, you've said it before, we've said it before. So is there a bigger point you're getting at with the ratings of Baltimore, Kansas City, or am I completely missing something?
No, I'm just saying I don't think it's going to generate very good ratings. I'm excited to see a series if it is Kansas City, Baltimore. I just think.
But why does that matter? Why does that matter? We're all interested, and honestly, we can't control what other people do. I don't live in New York, and I don't give a damn what the people in New York watch. And at the end of the day, I'll just watch Baltimore, Kansas City, and not give a damn about what people in New York have to say about it. And it doesn't. I don't care about it. It doesn't matter. I don't care if the teams in base, if Bud Selig or Major League Baseball isn't able to expand to 34 teams or whatever the hell they want to do, or they're not. If Fox makes a few less million, that's good. I don't care. If I'm interested in the series, that should be all that matters. And for me, that is. I think Baltimore, Kansas City will be great, and I don't care what other people think because it doesn't affect me. I don't, they're showing the games.
It affected me. I'm just saying the greater aspect of the sport. I think for baseball, in terms of if they want the better ratings, they need to have the better teams in there. I said I'm going to watch this series, and I don't give a fuck what you think.
No. I'm just
about. You're saying it to me. I'm saying that. Yeah, I don't care what other people think. I'm saying that overall for baseball, it'd be better for them. Unfortunately, because not enough looking at this stuff.
Here's what I'm saying. We're talking about the ratings all the time, and I just don't care about the ratings. It doesn't matter to me because they're showing the games, and that's this isn't directed at you. This is directed at, I guess, our infatuation with the ratings because we seem to think that we should be watching. Everybody should be watching these games, and if it doesn't appeal to people in New York, that's fine. There's nothing baseball can do about that because ultimately baseball is going to have to get on with if the Yankees aren't good or the Red Sox aren't good. They're going to have to find a way. And honestly, I can't worry about Major League Baseball's problems. All I can do is if I'm interested, I can watch the games. And that I just think a lot of times we worry about what other people do or think or say, and that just doesn't matter. I don't think.
I'm worried about it. I'm just saying that overall for baseball, this series I don't think is going to be nearly as good for them as, say, if a team where the Yankees or the Angels were in it.
We agree.
Why do we care what baseball thinks?
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get at. It's just not to make this team more brought up in our
For the same reason that we care what Katy Perry thinks about college football.
That I did not care about.
There you go.
It ended up being entertaining, but I did not care what her picks were.
Okay, what? Okay, I didn't see. I saw her last pick. What was she had the corn dog? I don't know what the fuck that was about. What for those who saw it? What was entertaining about it? How was it any different than any other celebrity pick'em?
She ripped off the elephant off of Corso's head.
Okay,
but that was about it.
That was the best.
I thought it was entertaining just how unpredictable. You could tell that the other people on the set had no idea what was happening and why she was doing the things she was doing, and just like the tension, the weird tension that seemed to be forming because nobody knew what she was doing.
And maybe it's just me. I like the way she propositioned Trevor Knight, which inevitably led to him not playing well in the game at times because obviously his mind was in other places and probably will be for the foreseeable future.
As far as the baseball ratings go, since people lost their lives over that discussion there, do you think Kansas City, very entertaining games here, do you think they can get a following? I think people will care about this series because,
I hope so.
Because these games are entertaining. They haven't been in there in 30 years. It's people have not seen this before. So I think they could get a good following here, and people will root for. I would say this is similar through their first 3 games, and it's early here. They're looking pretty good with their ace with a 2-run lead here in the first inning. I would compare this to a Butler team in the NCAA tournament, an underdog team. And they play close games, entertaining games, and it's kind of a deal where, wow, Kansas City's playing tonight, I'm going to watch that. While Butler's playing tonight, I better watch that because I know it's going to be a close game. I know it's going to be an extra inning game, and I know something crazy is going to happen.
I would agree with that. As the resident non-baseball guy, I would say the most important thing is to play entertaining games because I almost never watch an entire game. But if it's the 8th inning and it's a 1-run game, and it's 4-5, it's pretty easy to say, oh, I'm going to turn it here and I'm going to see how this plays out at the end, as opposed to, oh, well, this guy's having a good but not great game pitching and it's 7-1, to which I myself and I'm sure plenty of other people say I don't have any interest in watching the end of that.
And the road teams have been very good in this postseason, so. Mr. Traxler, we faced off in fantasy football last week.
We sure did.
And, I talked shit to you because you were not here. And
I watched the show, but I don't remember what you said. I'm sorry.
I said you had a shit team.
Yeah.
Because I was ahead by about 300 points here with the Sunday night game left.
Yeah.
Because you had Ahmad Bradshaw, Zach Ertz, Alex Smith. You almost won. You were ahead late. I believe you were ahead by 1 point late.
It was one or two, yeah.
And then Hussein Abdullah took a pick six the other way. And even though that is a defensive score for Kansas City, a pet peeve of mine for fantasy football. Yeah. If the defense scores, that still counts against the New England New England defense, even though it was their offense. And Alex Smith had a good game, 21 points for you, no turnovers, a couple of touchdowns, and New England had -4.
Yep.
So the game hinged on a Hussein Abdullah pick six. So a good comeback for you, and a 122-120 win for me.
Yeah, I was watching. I've never watched live stats for fantasy like that before, and it was weird because Alex Smith would lead them down, they'd score, and then the yards aren't on the fantasy cast thing on my iPad. So you're just kind of looking for like this weird happy medium, and it would have been cool if I was a math person to make up some sort of matrix that would have showed how many points I need from so and so, and how many points from the defense, and to watch those things go during the game, and whether or not I would have been able to win. But a valiant battle. I don't know how many weeks. This week it'll be tight, and I'm probably not going to win. But I just kind of have a weird lineup, and I don't know. It's a very competitive league. I do enjoy it.
Mr. Stacken.
Yes.
You are ahead of a friend of the program, Dus Verank.
Yeah.
Dus!
A solid competitor year in and year out, no matter what fantasy endeavor he goes in. You are ahead, or actually you are behind 72-70. He has Kirk Cousins versus Seattle. It is at Washington, so we'll see how that defense plays. But you have Marshawn Lynch. You are down 2. I would say if this game was in Seattle, you'd be looking pretty good, but it's in Washington. How do you handicap your final day coming up here?
I think I'm at a disadvantage because, in part, Monty Ball wet the bed with his performance, getting knocked out early. He only got me a point. So he did not help me or do me any favors at all. Based on how Kirk Cousins looked last week, I think I stand a fairly decent shot. Marshawn Lynch, 2 weeks to rest his body. I think he'll be just fine. He'll run for a score or two. Washington's defense is nothing special. So I think I should be able to get by, but I would say that I am going to blame the Cleveland Browns for destroying this week because they somehow gave up 28 points to Jake Locker and Whitehurst. So
rocking the ponytail, Whitehurst.
Thanks, Cleveland, for nothing. But we'll see. I'm hoping to sneak out with a victory. But Monty Ball and the Cleveland Browns defense did not help me at all.
Side note, can you go on a quick diatribe about how much you hate Cleveland now, too? Like Detroit?
No. I don't mind Cleveland. They're city looking up. They're on City
River.
Looking better. The Cavs have LeBron James back. They have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
They have a river that starts on fire.
They do have the Factory of Sadness, so that is a little sad for them. Again, I just said I was talking about Detroit's teams, and then I said they were bankrupt. I hope that the city recovers, but right now it's not quite as good. And today was not a good day for the city of Detroit.
We have a strongly worded email here from Drew Carey. He's not a fan.
We'll work on the apology and give it to Stacken later to read on air.
Since we're talking about fantasy football, I know not everybody cares.
Everybody cares. Everybody cares.
Austin Davis, fantasy hero of the week for one Shane Koob, because in our league it's a 2-quarterback league, so you start every quarterback. It seems will get a crack to make the lineup before you throw in or after you throw in the buys. And he rolled with Austin Davis today. I don't know if that was because he had somebody on bye. Oh my, he benched Tom Brady in favor.
That's a good idea. I like that idea.
That was a great call by him.
Stones for Koob.
And
I heard somewhere that Austin Davis is leading the NFL in completion percentage.
I can't confirm that. But
that could happen. So let's take a little peek at the old statistics. The old statistics.
The Ball State alum coming out of nowhere to be solid, mediocre NFL quarterback. I didn't see that coming.
While we're talking fantasy, I would like to point out I'm going to be the only team 5-0 in the league.
I was.
And Stack, remember last week you had a very good chance against me? How'd that turn out? Not very well, did it?
I didn't say that.
No. You said last week you thought you had a very good chance. You had no chance.
I had a chance. You only won by 11. Schottenkirk, I'm not really interested in fights with your dumbass, so I will just focus on my $200 leagues and leave it at
Whoa!
We're at 160 in my one league today, crushing the competition. I'll be 5-1. Haven't scored fewer than 116. So I focus on bigger fish. I don't need to pick quarrels with you.
Well, then don't call me a dumbass, man. Don't fucking start name calling, Dick White.
Since we're bringing up these other leagues that nobody cares about, I have I'll be 4-1 in my other league.
Good.
So
Austin Davis, 72.3% completion percentage. I don't know if this is updated through this week, but that is first in the nation. That is ahead of Drew Brees. So look at you, Austin Davis. Look at you. Probably better than Sean Hill, and I'm not a big fan of Sam Bradford. So
speaking of Drew Brees, remember when the Saints used to be good at football? Because they're not anymore.
I remember that. And I'm fine that they're not.
I remember.
Travis can go on a long thing about how much.
New Orleans, the water, the flood, the dome.
Let's just throw every city we hate under the bus on this show right now.
Toledo, Ohio, I'm coming for you.
I've always secretly hated the Boston Red Sox. Part of that's Tom Brady's fault.
Screw you, Brady.
Think about it.
Mr. Schottenkirk's team, 4-0 on his way to 5-0. So a strong matchup. I'm close behind at 4-1, so hopefully we can get something going here. Should be a good playoff, as you said. A competitive league. Everybody makes the playoffs except 2 teams, so everybody's got a chance.
Everybody's in.
Just like the lottery, so it's good. What did you make of Ari Boynton offering me a trade, which I accepted? I received Matt Ryan, and I received Dez Bryant, and I had to give up Jay Cutler. Mr. Stacken,
He's a goddamn moron. He's a goddamn moron. That's what I got out of that, because that's horrible. He offered me that same thing for Andrew Luck and somebody else. I almost accepted it, and then like 2 hours later, you got that one. I don't know what in the hell he's thinking.
What trade did he offer you? Andrew Luck and who for Bryant and Ryan?
Yes, Andrew Luck and somebody. I couldn't even tell you right now.
He offered me Dez Bryant and somebody for Peyton Manning.
That's yeah. Peyton Manning's pretty good.
Now, can we put this on the so it's not awkward?
Since we're
Don't call me more names.
talking about bad trades here, I do have one trade that went down in this one league that I'm in. This is even worse than your trade, which hideous. Okay, so Kirk Cousins and Josh Gordon were traded for Doug Martin, Matt Ryan, and I'm looking for the wide receiver here. But even those two, you trade Kirk Cousins and Josh Gordon for that.
That's bad.
That's atrocious.
Josh Gordon not playing, Kirk Cousins inconsistent.
Long.
Yeah, that's a bad trade. And I played him this week, so I really don't know. What that was about. I thought he would want Niall Davis back up for Jamal Charles, since he has Jamal Charles, but apparently that would have made the trade more interesting.
Matt Ryan and Andrew Hawkins for Kirk Cousins and Josh Gordon.
Yeah, even without Andrew Hawkins, that's a bad trade. So.
Yeah.
What do you make here, Mr. Traxler? Size up the competition here. Give me a scouting report on Dan Beck. Leading the pick'em here in college, very surprising.
Yeah, allow me a minute to pull that up here.
Yeah. Also, he's 2-2 in the league. He's going to finish 3-2 here. He put up 148 points this week, by far the most in the league. Also has Stephen Ridley tonight. So when Ridley gets his 3 points, he'll have 151. Dan Beck put together a solid club. Arian Foster had probably the best week he'll ever have in his season before he tears up a knee here in a couple weeks. Demarius Thomas had a monster game, 226 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's something that I missed. How do you scout one Don Beck?
He's been doing very well. I'm not able to do the math exactly here, but he has had 2 weeks where he's led everybody. He had a 54-point week in the. We're talking about the pick'em here. In the 54-point week in week 1, and then he's been very consistent. Even in the week where everybody did terrible, he seemed to have finished tied for 3rd. So in the front half, he's up on Beardless, our friend Beardless, by 10 points, and then up on Charlie, the next closest competitor, by 17. As Schottenkirk has mentioned, we are only 40% through this season of Pick'em, and
Really?
I mean, nobody except maybe our guy Wyatt Rogenkamp. Happy birthday to Mr. Rogenkamp, and Mr. Stacken are out of contention at this point.
Due to missed weeks.
Due to missed weeks, you miss a week that puts you in bad shape for winning the competition.
And it really hurt Stacking because everyone scored like at least 48 points that one week he missed.
Yeah, that was bad. That was a bad week.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to miss a week, you want it to be the week where the leader wins with 19, and that was not the week that Stacking missed.
Wyatt Rogenkamp, he missed that week. Week 4 was the week that everybody struggled, and he missed that week, so he was only out on, 25 points.
I take solace in the fact that I was 3rd highest this week, but that's not going to do me a whole lot of good.
We're clapping for we the top half in a week. We're so proud.
Yes.
I would compare the rise of Dan Beck to the rise of the Mississippi schools this year. They had been good the last few years. Now all of a sudden they're on fire, and nobody can stop them.
Can it keep up? Can it keep up? We will see.
Can't be stopped right now.
And the regular season is important in the college pick'em, but as we all know, it all builds up to the bowl pick'em.
That's where the games are won, folks. That's where it's at.
And I always do awful in the bowl one.
The bowl pick'em, I feel like of all the championships we contest in the sports lounge, the bowl pick'em, that's the big time.
That's the Masters. That's the Masters of it.
Yeah. What is the grand slam of the sports lounge contest?
I would say it would be the bowl pick'em. If you want to put the fantasy league in there, you maybe want to put the NFL against the spread in there.
March.
Yeah, and then the March Madness one. We kind of we got the Schottenkirk one, we got the Stacking one. We kind of spread out our March Madness picks here. So with big money involved in each of them. So and I would say that's a solid 4, with most of them coming with the NFL variety.
What is the Players' Championship of our season?
Just the Summit League tournament in general. How about that?
That's good. I like that.
Just the whole thing.
It's really tough for me to ever win the Grand Slam, being that I don't even compete in one of those every single year.
The March Madness?
Oh, fantasy.
No, the fantasy one.
Yeah.
I don't think I did in March Madness last year, but I think I normally do.
Well, you're like
I have in the past.
You're like the men's soccer at SDSU. They don't have it. They can't compete. USD, they don't have baseball. They don't have it. They can't. That really affects your Commissioner Cup points.
Yep.
And when you're going head-to-head versus USD for a nice, clear bowl of corn, something as prestigious as that came from somebody's elevator that's been in there for 2 years, it really makes that softball game in 42-degree weather on April 19th that much more important. So
I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Thank you.
It's what Leon Costello lives for.
It's what we all live for. I bleed corn. Most people bleed colors. I bleed agriculture.
What do most people bleed?
Colors. They bleed. They don't bleed blood. They bleed colors.
Yeah. Okay.
Not coloreds.
I thought you said bleed I thought you said bleed Culver's, which would have been an interesting answer.
Only the people in the press box stacking those.
Well, Culver's is the sponsor of SDSU.
They are. They are.
Stay away from the cheese curds. You'll die 5 years sooner.
I'm surprised the people who bring the Culver's to the press box have never been killed by angry students.
That's because they throw some burgers out there after they bring us the food.
After, but the first time, how did they not get murdered?
Well,
No, they go up the other way. They go up by
the adults?
by the regular seating section, not by the students.
Wouldn't there have to be fans there to be angry to begin with, or what?
That only when it's not playoff time.
Thank God they get those burgers there before halftime, because if it was after halftime, a grenade could go off in the student section. There'd be approximately 2 casual. And it's not going to be us. And
the bright side is that things are looking up after that good game yesterday. Oh, wait, no, never mind.
They
reached double digits.
Good.
And the good thing is this new stadium, not smaller than this one, so that'll be good.
It is
and
not.
As we know,
I don't think it's been since the Ron Zook Illinois Fighting Illini team led by Nathan Shieldhouse that started 7-0 that year in 2011. I think that was the last time they got pants that bad.
That was a can of the ass whip was open there yesterday, so that's good to see.
Not even 58-20 last year at Nebraska?
No, that was
a game for a little while, though.
It was. I mean, you're right. I mean, you are right that the Illinois game, 56-3, was a pantsing from the start. But in the second quarter, that game got out of hand.
Well, I enjoyed a stretch there where it was like 4th and 7 from like the 30-35, and instead of trying like a 50-yard field goal, they went for it when this was still like a 2-possession game, which was a poor call. At least
they didn't punt. Go Big Ten. At least they didn't punt.
Yeah.
The thing that sticks out to me about the Illinois game was I was going to a Nebraska game later that day, and I went home, and I was going to go to the game with my parents, and we were going to watch the SDSU game as long as it was competitive until we left for Lincoln, and we didn't have to wait that long, because I remember O'Brien threw a pick-6 to make it 21-0 in the first quarter, and I said, well, I suppose we can leave now. I don't think this is going to be that entertaining.
And you were correct. You were correct. Final note here, I did not watch a single second of NFL, so I'm happy about that. I am interested in the Cincinnati-New England game tonight. No reason why Cincinnati should not win by a couple of touchdowns. New England, chaos. Brady's leaving for Houston next year. It's all going downhill. Are you AFC Championship game last year? Are you surprised that this much is being made of it? Is this the end of the dynasty? AFC East is a terrible division, the worst in football. Do you expect them to turn things around, Mr. Stacken?
Until they don't, I say they'll at least win the AFC East. But right now, Cincinnati and Denver are looking like the prohibitive favorites in that.
Okay.
My guess is that
I still say in the garbage AFC East. No, I was just going to say, again, in the garbage AFC East, they will win this division. Buffalo will be their biggest challenger, but they're not going to even sniff a Super Bowl, I don't think.
It's gross to say that Buffalo's their biggest challenger. I'm going to say that they circle the wagons tonight and find a way to win, and it doesn't matter because they end up going 9-7.
Okay.
Maybe that wins the AFC East. Maybe it doesn't. Either way, they lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Marcus, are you surprised that there's this much controversy, this much upheaval, this much angst? There's a lot of angst.
I feel like you always need like a true monumental game where everything either happens for you or everything starts going to shit. And Monday night, Sunday night games tend to lend themselves to starts of an era, ends of an era. Like Randy Moss. Randy Moss showed up against the Packers on Monday Night Football. You can go back, you can look at a whole buttload of other games. To be honest, the Patriots have probably been stringing things along here for a little while.
Yep.
And I guess I feel like this is more opinion, and it didn't really stand out to me when the Patriots were good, but they kind of did a good job of using veterans that they had and veterans that they had been able to pull off other teams to fill some of their gaps. And when they won those titles, the defense was the strongest part. Now the defense is kind of, I mean, my fantasy team be damned. The defense is a little shaky. And the offense, I mean, how many years in a row have they just pieced together this wide receiving core? I mean, when Danny Amendola is the guy you're counting on, you bring in, you're counting on to make something happen. Wes Welker, and I guess is the only guy I can think of who's really had a great season, and Randy Moss. And then you have Hernandez getting hurt all the time, or excuse me, not Hernandez, Gronkowski. Hernandez is in jail, bang, bang. But it just seems like they've kind of been pushing the cart down the path here for a few years, and it may be catching up to him. I don't, our guy Peter King, he told Dan Patrick that he could see Brady ending with another team. I don't really see that happening.
I see it.
You do? Brett Favre-like finish coming?
Yep. I don't think he's any good anymore, though.
I think Traxler made some good points, and I would say one thing about Brady. I think if Brady played in Denver with everyone they had, I'm not saying Denver'd be lights out. I bet he'd look a lot better right now, and we'd be talking about how good he looks with all this talent around him. And I think Traxler hit it on the head with, when Gronkowski's healthy, he's okay, which is 3 games a season now. And there's nobody else that's any good. You look and it's like, oh, who are these 3 white guys that came off the street to play receiver for the Patriots?
And it also doesn't
that's
help.
how you're going to win the Super Bowl.
It also doesn't help when you trade Logan Mankins, one of the best offensive linemen on there. It doesn't help the run game. It doesn't help Brady in protection, and they just don't give him enough weapons. They're trying to be cheap.
Logan Mankins is the difference between them and winning all these games. What I will say
it doesn't make Brady very happy. It does not make Brady happy.
Right, it doesn't. I think of all the star quarterbacks, Brady, when they're not doing well, Brady shows it the most. Manning didn't do that. Brett Favre didn't do that. Not that there's anything wrong with him doing that. I don't think any less of him for getting mad at his players, but I think it is kind of funny. Of the star quarterbacks of our generation, he's the guy who does that. And I think I'm just thinking of the teams I could see Brady with.
Houston's that team.
What about a team like Dallas? I think
no.
Romo's not going anywhere, but that if, let's say, Brady comes available, do you think that Jerry Jones is going to turn down a chance to get Tom Brady?
Yes. He's not
apparently he wanted Manziel, and the kids took away the grandpa's old cough medicine from him and said, let's be fucking serious here. We're not taking Manziel. I would have been fine with it because you need to find a quarterback here pretty soon for Dallas. And if you're a believer of sitting a guy for a couple of years and making him, getting used to it instead of putting him right out there.
Here's my thinking. Brady's not going to a team where he's going to a team like Denver where you can win right away, just like Manning did. So who is that team?
Dallas isn't that team though. Dallas isn't that good.
Good. They're doing good now, and they have weapons.
But their defense is. The thing we talked about, the New England, is their defense is iffy. I would put Dallas in a whole other iffy category.
I agree.
I'm going to throw one out there. Drew's Tampa Bay Bucks going to Tampa.
How about Kansas City?
I don't think I think he goes to a place where the weather's a little better.
Columbia, Missouri.
He goes to Columbia, the country.
No, the
Columbia. Starts selling cocaine. That's his retirement plan.
We got to pump up that 401k. Selling 1 kilo at a time.
Yes, he needs the money. A huge game for New England here later in a minute because they are at Buffalo next week. So Buffalo, you're the Ole Miss of this week. You want to show me something, Buffalo? Beat the fuck out of the Patriots. Make the Patriots fuckless next week.
Buffalo and New England, the AFC game of the year. It's just like it's 1997 all over again.
Jesus. Kriens, you want to talk about this?
Sure. As we wrap it up and get to the serious stuff with a shitty human being, Adrian Peterson, We have Kansas City, Baltimore here, likely ALCS. So I'm assuming it'll be something like a Kansas City Buffalo AFC championship game, something like that. Something from 20 years ago.
I don't know.
Also, what's my favorite stat when looking at teams and how they're going to do the next year compared to last year?
Games that are won by 7 points or less.
New England Patriots played 7 games last year that were within 3 points or less. What was their record?
6-1.
They were 6-1. Yes. So there you go.
Rush into the mean.
So a very.
To be fair, nobody. I don't recall a lot of people. I mean, Miami was kind of a trendy team. I don't think a lot of people were calling for New England's demise like this.
Well, I mean, like you said, this has been a couple years in the making. I didn't think.
I know,
they were all that good
but
last
I don't think people were saying, yeah, it's gonna happen. I mean, New England's gonna fall apart, and I mean, I think like we were talking before the show started. I'm not real convinced that they're going to lose this game tonight to Cincinnati. I feel like this is a show-me-something game. Cincinnati has to show me something every game because I'll just never believe that they're going to be any good. But
don't believe until the playoffs. That's the time they have to show you something.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Let's be serious. Let's be serious. As of right now, until someone else from the AFC East plays better, are you going to pick the New England Patriots to not win the AFC East next year? I mean, unless someone else goes 10-6 or 11-5.
No. Unless, Miami had that 11-5 season there with Chad Pennington a while back, but I think Brady was injured that year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Tore his knee the first game of the year.
Yeah. So very important game coming up here later tonight. The Adrian Peterson article, as we wrap it up here in the Star Tribune, a terrific article. I believe we have a confirmation on kids now. 6 kids, I believe. Is this confirmed?
Well, this is just. I mean. I think as it comes down, it's only the kids that you find.
Well,
I mean, 6 found.
At least.
Kids, at least 6.
No less. And does this include the one in Sioux Falls?
Let me look at this again, quick.
Because a tremendous piece. It's very surprising how a guy like this is marketed the way he was, the face of the Vikings, one of the faces of the NFL. And all of these things that happened and you didn't hear of any of it. You didn't hear any of it. A rape charge in 2011.
Not rape. I do
sexual assault.
I do have sexual assault. Right.
Sexual assault.
They're both terrible things, but not rape.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be the guy defending Adrian Peterson, but just so that we have that clear.
And a charity that had some poor choices, or they didn't give money to certain organizations that they said they did. They asked the organizations, "Did you get money from this Adrian Peterson's charity?" Adrian Peterson's foundation says yes, but these organizations say no. I will believe the organizations that say no. So, what did you make of this article? Because this is the article I've been waiting for. Give me all of this shit in one article. And tell me what happened, and tell me how terrible of a guy this is. And I think this did a good job of doing that.
What I think is that this article kind of pieced together the story that had to be told, since he was indicted. And that's it. He's had all these transgressions. We kind of talked about that right after this happened. He's been in the news, and the one that was in here that I had forgotten about was him driving more than 100 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone, and that sort of just getting expunged from his record. And then you have the sexual misconduct scenario that was not reported because there were no charges. And then the thing about the charity, which, I mean, I don't want to, it's probably wrong to say this, but I feel like that happens probably more than we know, is that you have these charities, these nonprofits that are set up, and the money doesn't always go to where they say it's going to go. I think it is interesting. I bought a hard copy of the paper today to read that and some other stories, and I was in line with a guy behind me, and he said, "Well, first of all, he was surprised that somebody was buying all these newspapers," and I kept my remarks to myself, but. we were talking about Peterson, and I think he seemed to be a little bit more apologetic. Yeah, good word for Peterson in about how he wasn't raised like him and I, the two guys in line, and how he kind of felt like maybe Peterson was being singled out, considering that he's a celebrity or an athlete, and I just it was just interesting to hear somebody who I had never met before, never seen before, and to get some sort of inclination as to how they feel about it. And I kind of told them, well, this story kind of lays out that his charities, and he's been accused of some things that are not real great on his record. It seems to be that, as the story lays out, Peterson is just not the guy that we thought he was. And I think that's interesting. That's just a weird place for Vikings fans of the NFL, considering that a month ago he was the face of the Vikings and he was a big-time face in the league, and now, that's just not the case. He's going to get to be back on the field, but as far as the off-the-field stuff, he's just not going to get those opportunities back, I don't think.
Any other thoughts on this article, Adrian Peterson?
I think the only thing I would add is that I don't think this is just America. I think there's other countries that do it too, but we love superstars and celebrities and propping people up and putting them on pedestals, and nobody's perfect and everybody screws up, and some do more than others, and it appears he does more than others.
Like Oscar Pistorius in South Africa.
Would you assume the Vikings knew all about all of this stuff? We knew most of it. Do you think they knew all of it?
I would say that they probably don't know. They may not have known about the charity thing, because at the end of the day, that's not their business. And by all indications, he did the things the Vikings asked him to do from a charity standpoint. Volunteering his time, or at least doing the photo opportunities when it comes to going and visiting hospitals or whatever. And from that standpoint, he did what the Vikings asked, and I think that's really the end of their responsibility in this. I think this is Peterson's problem, at least as it comes down to those problems. And they're going to have a tough decision to make. I would assume that whatever decision the Vikings are going to make has been made already, and they know what they're going to do, and I would assume that's going to be cutting him this season, at the end of this year.
Yeah, for me, as you know, it's a very easy decision. I would have made the move already. There's no need to prolong this process of what to do with him after the season. I would. The thing that sucks about this, aside from a kid getting hit, is he's getting paid right now. Yep.
He's getting paid to not be on the team, and I'm sure Kriens, you can look into this because you're into the contracts. But it would be interesting to know. He got that big extension a few years ago. How much of that money is he going to get? How much money has he gotten? Yeah. And considering that there's a lot of this is bonuses and stuff like performance stuff, how much money is out there on the table that he's not going to get to? And we don't have to look into that tonight, but it would just be interesting to see if that stuff's out there.
A 7-year deal worth $100 million. This is the fourth and likely final year of that. So I would guess it's somewhere around $50-60 million that he's going to end up with. So again, another deal, $100 million. Looks like a lot. He's probably going to get 50 to 60% of that. So NFL contracts, I give no shits what you sign year-by-year basis, since they are basically year-by-year contracts. So.
Well, not that Peterson would have made it to the end of the contract with the Vikings, but that's going to be lost money. That's money he could have gotten if he wasn't an idiot.
Yeah.
And so I would look at it from that standpoint. Yeah, he made the money he made. He earned that money, right or wrong. But he's going to leave, by your estimation, $40 million on the table. And while he'll make it with some other team, maybe.
Well, I would say just based on the salary, I think it was around $15 million here these next 3 years, I believe.
Right, he's not getting that.
So that's at least $45 million. So he's gotten around 55. So it's right around 50% there, I would say. So final question here. Ponder played Thursday. How did he play? Was it well or was it not well?
It was bad.
Was it the worst you've ever seen?
No, Spurgeon one was worse.
It was as bad as I've ever seen. I mean, it was.
Why?
It was,
Why is he so inept? How the fuck is he worse than he was 3 years ago? Is his confidence just shot to shit and he knows he can't play at this level? And was this damaging to him? Because we all thought, well, he'll go somewhere. He'll be a pretty good backup. Was this so much of a thing that people will overreact and say, Jesus Christ, this piece of shit can't even be a backup, let alone a third stringer? With, at the very least, with a backup, you would like him to come in for a game or two and hold down the goddamn fort. But this fucker let the fort goddamn blow away to fucking Michigan. Such a shitty goddamn quarterback. Why the fuck is he on the team anymore?
All he had to do was not ruin anything, and he set off a 10-year tire fire.
Don't shit your pants, and he shit over everything. Jesus.
He
Fucking sucks.
I think that he'll get a chance to be a third-string quarterback.
Who in the fuck would take this guy?
I don't know.
The San Francisco's backup quarterbacks aren't lighting the world on fire.
They're better.
They have Blaine Gabbert. Is Christian Ponder better than Blaine Gabbert?
I thought he was. There was like two quarterbacks I thought Ponder was better than. Blaine Gabbert was one of them. Jay Clocker maybe, but Jay Clocker's at least done something in his mediocre under a terrible career.
I'll see ya.
Humorous but serious question. Would you guys watch like one of those college or pro football skills competition where they just had Ponder and Gabbert to see who's worse? Yes. I would watch that.
Yes.
I would at
and
least
instead of more trying to win, it's more I just want to not lose and not be the so-called worst person in the world right now.
I'd set the DVR, yeah.
As somebody that's hated Ponder since the day they drafted him, I got amusement out of this performance. I got amusement. It was so I saw about 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, but just following Twitter and just seeing everybody shit on this guy. It was tremendous. It was tremendous and highly entertaining in a game you know they had no chance at, and to see him play this bad, to where they're literally saying run the ball every down, do not throw the ball. It was so bad it was funny.
I wish I put this on Twitter. I hope that he wouldn't be as bad as he's been, and he was worse. He was worse than he's ever been. He just. And you watch him, and I would like to think that it's as simple as that he can't process getting the ball to these guys. I mean, he just can't throw to the guys that are open or whatever his problem is, because I mean, footwork wise, I don't know, he just sucks when it comes to standing in the pocket and throwing the ball at a decent time. Like he holds on to the ball way too long, and then he gets this bullshit rushing touchdown at the end of the game. And I'm like, screw you, man. Screw you.
It's so amazing to see how bad he was, and then Castle comes in last year and plays well, and Castle did not play well this year, and then Bridgewater comes in and lights the world on fire, and same personnel, so it's not like, well, this was a year or two later, different teams. No, exact same fucking team, exact same fucking players. Teddy Bridgewater, tremendous quarterback. The other two suck dick like no other.
I know every day should be Saturday. You used to have a thing called the spike factor, where they take quarterbacks and they would say that, like every play where you throw an incomplete pass or an interception or get sacked or do anything where you would have been better off just spiking the ball into the ground to stop the clock, and they would have a percentage of plays and then make fun of the guys who did the worst. I would like to have seen Christian, and they only do college football. But I wish going to have seen a Christian Ponder spike factor for multiple games, and especially the one this past week.
We probably could look that up.
It was bad. $47 million Peterson would have made in the last 3 years of his contract. So
nice.
He fucked himself out of $50 million. Good job there. So that'll do it for this edition of the Lounge. We appreciate Drew.
One more thing.
Okay.
Didn't come up in last week's show. Miami Marlins record 77-85. Get your goddamn red pants out, Mr. Kriens.
You didn't. What was your portion of the bet? You said you were going to come up with something. I did not hear what you can't
That's
come
what
up
I
with.
come up with.
You came up with what I came up with.
It doesn't matter. I can. why not have one pair of pants up on the line?
I'll wear some red fucking pants. We'll get some red pants up here.
All right.
We'll get some tight jeans, some real tight fucking jeans.
There you go.
There we go. There we go, indeed. Entertaining edition, the 86th edition, I believe. I calculated it out. The 100th edition will come sometime in January. So I think the second week of January. So get your tuxedos rented for that extravaganza. We'll be talking about Teddy Bridgewater's first playoff win around that time, so that'll be a whole hell of a lot of fun. So
only one game back. Everything's it's still possible.
I forgot about this. Any reason why Minnesota doesn't win their next 4?
Because they're the Vikings.
They're the Vikings. Yep.
Home against Detroit, at Buffalo, at Tampa, home against Washington. They win all 4 of those games.
They go 2-2.
As long as who do they lose to? You better not you better not say Detroit either. I'll punch Detroit. If Schottenkirk says Detroit, I'll punch Stacken in the fucking face.
Okay, then Detroit, because I want to see that happen. But anyways,
okay.
They're not going to win both at Buffalo and at Tampa Bay. They'll lose one there, and I'm still not confident that they beat the Lions next week.
They've lost once in 15 years at home.
I know. Detroit suffered a lot of injuries and whatever today, and Calvin's hurt, and a bunch of other guys went down. But we're getting a little bit of ahead of ourselves with all this Teddy hype. I want to see him more than one game.
Teddy.
Anything less than 3-1's a disappointment going into the bye. So,
Mike Scioscia is just pulling pictures. He don't give a damn.
That game's over, so I can watch the football game. Your 1910 U.S. President Leader, the Sports Lounge, for Schottenkirk, for Stacken, for Traxler, for Hildebrand. I'm Kriens. Amon as well. Good 5 minutes. That was good. 87th edition of the Sports Lounge next week. We'll see Ole Miss and Mississippi State 1-2 in the country. That should be fun.